Elite Dangerous is going to fundamentally change in 2025 with what is arguably one of the largest updates that have ever been made for the game. This is colonization, and in many respects it's going to alter how people will play the game. Now, this follows on from an absolutely fantastic year for Elite Dangerous in 2024, where the game received some significant updates along with numerous smaller updates, not to mention, for the first time in a long time, a number of new ships as well. Now, the trend of new ships is likely to continue into 2025, although there's no official word on that. I don't see a Frontier stopping that anytime soon. So 2025 will kick off with the colonization update. As I say, this will fundamentally change Elite in many respects. And in the first livestream, the first official livestream from Frontier Unlocked in 2025, we can expect to see, at least Frontier have hinted, that we can expect to see a roadmap for the future of the game. In this video then, we're going to talk a little bit about the colonization update. There's some new information that I haven't talked about previously, and of course I want to have a little bit of a speculation about what we can expect to see in 2025, and who knows, maybe even into 2026. And honestly, at this point, I don't think anything is off the table. Some of the long asked for features may well be in the future of the game. Anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. I'm going to be speculating as to what some of that content may be further into the video. Let's start then with System Colonization. So this is a pretty big update, so much so that it is going to have a beta phase. That means players will be able to get this tested out. And that makes sense, right? After all, this is going to shake things up pretty significantly, so Frontier certainly want to make sure that this goes correctly. For those of you who haven't heard yet then, what is System Colonization? Well, it's a major new feature that gives players the ability to establish human presence in the uninhabited star systems that are connected right near the bubble being the inhabited part of the galaxy. So here, players will gain tools to build entirely new settlements, space stations and economies. Now, keep in mind that this isn't full-on base building or space station building that you may find in the sandbox builders. Rather, it is player-directed or player-guided building. But that said, this doesn't diminish what this is going to be about, because after all, players will still gain significant control over their chosen star systems. So, colonization involves an initial credit cost to lay claim to a star system, and this will be followed by a 4-week period of hauling commodities to establish the infrastructure there. At the moment, Frontier haven't discussed the number of credits that this will cost, or the amount of commodities that will be required to establish said infrastructure. All of this will be determined during the beta phase. Now, after the claim period, the 4-week claim period, a colony will be permanently recognized as belonging to its founding player, otherwise known as the System Architect. Now, the process begins, as I said, with purchasing the certificate, or whatever it would be called, to begin the colonization process. While the fee itself hasn't been detailed, Frontier have said that it will be less than that of a fleet carrier. It seems then that Frontier are trying to strike a balance here between not making it so expensive that it's out the range of absolutely everyone, but has a significant enough cost that isn't simply purchased by people and then left to rot. Now, once you've founded a colony, there's no ongoing upkeep costs to this, and the system can't be overtaken by other players. You will remain the System Architect. Now, claiming a system follows a gold rush approach. You can only claim one system at a time, and this prevents a single commander from hoarding dozens of systems all at once. But that said, players can own more than a single star system. You will just need to wait for one star system to be colonized before you can go and claim another. Now, also, colonized systems behave like any other star system regarding the background simulation, the BGS. Factions here can be expanded or contested just as they can in a regular current space. Now, as for the economy of this star system, this will be chosen by the System Architect. So, for example, you can have an extraction economy, an industrial economy, a tourist economy, anything else you want, and this in turn will directly affect the trade and missions that are available within that star system. Now, the System Architect's name is going to be recorded in the galaxy map and the system map as well. So even if you move on to found more systems, you retain your architect status in the original system, thereby allowing you to revisit and expand them at any time. Yes, you will be able to guide and direct where space stations are built and where ground bases and settlements are going to be constructed as well. In fact, you can see some pre-release footage on the screen right here of how that is likely to work. A little bit more information on economies then. Apparently players are going to be able to freely choose how many and which type of economies to build in their new star system, although spreading them too thin reduces the chances of finding one golden goose market. Frontier's terminology there. Colonization is meant to offer flexible playstyles, solo or in groups, although I'd be very curious to see how many players are going to be able to solo this. It looks like there's going to be a heck of a lot of hauling commodities to star systems to ensure that those pieces of infrastructure are going to be constructed fully. And one final note here, just in case you've been wondering and might have missed this detail previously, the distance is fairly restricted at the moment from how far you can build from the bubble. I do believe it's around about 10 light years, so you won't be able to build in the middle of nowhere. You'll need to daisy chain systems together to progress further out deeper into space. Ultimately though, I suspect that given enough time we will see micro bubbles of human civilization scattered throughout space, especially relatively near to the bubble, but given enough time, who knows, maybe further deeper into space as well. At some point though, I would like Frontier to reconsider this a little bit and perhaps allow players to expand out from Colonia as well as Explorer's anchorage there in the centre of the galaxy. After all, those are already settled areas, so expanding them makes sense, right? So this is what we know so far about Elite Dangerous in 2025. It is now going to be the 11th year of the game. Hard to believe, isn't it? In fact, if we go back 10 years, that will take us to 2015 or thereabouts, and that was the year which Horizons was released, the first expansion for the game. Now, it's very likely that we're going to see further updates in 2025 beyond the colonization. Some of those are almost certainly going to be smaller updates with a new ship or something along those sort of lines, and maybe a few minor changes or tweaks, quality of life changes to the game. But what about bigger updates? Well, I suspect it's very likely that these will be on the cards, and this is pure speculation time, although it's likely we'll also have this answered in the next few weeks when Frontier do their next major official live stream. In fact, if we go back to around about this time last year, Frontier did exactly the same, and at the end of that roadmap they did suggest that they're going to be releasing a brand new feature for Elite, and yes, it turns out that was colonization. Fingers crossed that Frontier are willing to do the same thing again and go for a big brand new feature later on in the year or early into 2026. What could it be? Well, that is anyone's guess, but one thing I would like to point out is that at this point in the game's development cycle, once we've got colonization in there, pretty much everything that Frontier discussed back in the original pre-release days back in 2013 and even very late 2012 is now in Elite Dangerous, and that even includes the ability to walk around on the surface of planets and even construct space stations. Now obviously there's a few key features that are still missing. One of these is the ability to walk around inside of ships, and yes, I do keep going on about this one, but it is something I'd very much like to see. But the biggest feature I really would like to see is atmospheric planets, as well as the ability to get into the surface layer, the higher stratosphere atmosphere layer of gas giants. I fully realise that those are pretty big asks, but you know, if we went back 18 months or so, who would have ever imagined that here in 2025 we'd be talking about colonization? So on the one hand, I don't want to hype things up too much because after all, this is just my wish list, it's just hopes and, well, speculation really. But on the other hand, it's very clear that, well, after 2024, perhaps nothing is off the table. Let me know in the comment section below what you'd like to see coming in Elite Dangerous and what your thoughts are for 2024 as we've gone through that year already and the year ahead in 2025. Do check out the other video on the screen right here if you want to watch another one. Thanks for watching this one. I'll catch you next time, and do take care.